Do you want to play rough? Okay. Uno. Say hello to my little friend.
All right, guys, you guys ready to talk about Scarface?
Yeah,
and
man.
Scarface?
Oh, yeah.
Scarfaces?
I'm ready to talk about the Scarface.
We can't talk about it right now because I got to tell you about Audible.
What?
This episode is actually presented by Audible.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Today's episode is brought to you by Audible. Our listeners can actually get a free audiobook and a free 30-day trial at audibletrial.com/MDXpods. There's actually over 180,000 titles to choose from, and Audible works on iPhone, Android, Kindle, MP3 player, works on pretty much everything. So
I'm pretty sure I have like at least half of those books already. I've had Audible for like 4 years now, and I have so many books on it. It's awesome.
I'm going to check out it because I've heard it's a ridiculously long book, and I don't have time to read a ridiculously long book. But I live in LA and have LA traffic, so I can listen to a ridiculously long book.
There you go. I think I'm going to check out Pop 1280 by Jim Thompson. Thanks, Audible.
Yeah, thanks,
Yeah,
Audible. So
awesome.
there you guys go. This is good for all of our listeners. Once again, just go to audibletrial.com/MDXpods. That's audibletrial.com/MDXpods. And you guys get a free book and a 30-day trial. So help us out, support the show, and
Get something free.
Get something for free and check out Audible. All right, on with the show. Cue the theme song. All right. So, guys, you guys ready to listen? Or, guys, are you guys ready to talk about Scarface?
Yeah, I'm ready to listen about Scarface.
Yeah, I'm ready to
All
listen
right.
talk about Scarface.
Well, good. So, welcome to Remake Rewind. We're going to be talking about Scarface today. This is the podcast where we decide if remakes or reboots should have happened. Yeah, I'm Mike, as always. With me is Dustin. How are you doing, Dustin?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thank you very much for having
And
me.
Xavier. How are you doing, Xavier?
I'm doing pretty good.
All
yeah.
right, so Scarface. I didn't know that this was a remake until you suggested it, Xavier. 1932 was the original one. It was produced by Howard Hughes and directed by Howard Hawks and some other guy.
Some of the guy.
And, of course, the 1983 gangster classic Scarface with Al Pacino. This one, like, I never saw this one before, but this one is definitely one that's just ingrained in every part of American culture. Like, if you haven't seen this movie, you're still familiar with the overall plot and at least the say hello to my little friend. That was terrible, but everybody knows that.
Wow, you sound just
yeah,
like
that
him.
was something, wasn't it?
But yeah, like this is
Did you get Pacino to appear on this
but he
podcast?
didn't want to know anybody to know that he was on the podcast, so that was me, just for legal reasons.
Shit, I thought he was
me
here.
saying that stuff. Okay, bye, Al. Take it easy,
Now I'm
Al. It
disappointed.
was nice working with you.
Drive safe, Al. Love
yeah.
you.
See ya.
So yeah, this was an interesting movie. Like I hadn't seen it, but I can definitely see why it's so big in our culture, and to rap music, to just every TV show has spoofed it at some point. It's in a lot of movies. Recently there was like some elementary school play that did it with a bunch of kids, and I don't know if you guys have seen that YouTube video of the kids doing it. It's crazy and totally inappropriate.
Did they do like the end? Is like they're like a child covered in like powdered sugar or
I
something?
think they did it.
What do they
Dude, how many
They
F-bubs
didn't.
did
So
they
they did
drop in
change
this?
the words, like the curse words. I'll link the video for our listeners in the actual description of this episode. I think it was like popcorn at the end. It's been a while since I watched that video, but I think he like dives into popcorn.
Oh yeah, he had a popcorn problem.
Something like that. He
okay,
was
yeah,
in
I see
something, but it wasn't obviously cocaine. At least I hope not.
Well, that's good.
Or so they want
All
you
right.
to think.
So, as always, when we talk about these movies, we break it down into 2 or 3 criteria. What do you guys think we should be talking about this week?
I mean, they're both pretty violent movies, but I think like there's the violence is very different in these two movies. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people get killed, but I think it was a lot more creative in the 1983
Okay, so you want to
one.
talk about like the violence?
Just overall how violent each of these movies are, I think, or what the purpose of the violence is. Like it was just weird uses of violence, I think, in both
Okay.
of them.
We might want to talk about like how not just violence but the overall atmosphere, I suppose, because they're both they're very violent, but they're also very steeped in two very different types of gangster
Yes,
atmosphere.
absolutely. I also think we should talk about kind of the the cultural, not necessarily the cultural impact, because we already know that the 1983 one has a far larger cultural impact, but these were kind of, the first one definitely was kind of like a propaganda film, and I kind of want to talk about like the themes of the movie. So like race, drug usage, crime,
Like
xenophobia. Yeah, I kind of want to talk
yeah.
about like the different themes of each movie. I think those could be pretty interesting. Anything else you guys think we should talk about?
No, I mean that's enough.
Yeah.
That'll give us
okay,
something to work
perfect.
with.
Yeah, that's kind of the meat of both movies, really.
Xavier, do you want to, since you picked this episode, the movies we're watching, do you kind of want to summarize the 1932 version for us real quick?
Yeah, sure. So the 1932 version, it has kind of an interesting story behind it, like behind the filming, but the general gist of the 1932 film is that it's loosely based on the story of Al Capone. The movie itself is actually based on a book by the same name by someone named Armitage Trail, and it's well, we can just read Wikipedia. It's loosely based on the rise and fall of Al Capone. You can sort of see that in the setting and the time period as well. There's a ton of references to crimes that happened either during Al Capone's sort of reign of terror or from
Other gangsters.
Similar crimes that happened at the time.
What was? Sorry to interrupt you, but it was really interesting that you recommend you mentioned that it's based off Al Capone and like some of the stuff. Like the beginning of the movie opens with like a crawl, like a call to action for like the American people, and it says, it's very much like, I feel like it's a propaganda film, but it says that every incident in this movie is based off a real world counterpart, and they do at one point have like a kind of a Valentine's Day or St. Valentine's Day massacre, and they just like, oh, it's Valentine's Day, and then they open fire on a bunch of people. So it's definitely interesting.
Oh, yeah. All these things have some sort of basis in reality, even if they've been fictionalized, which is kind of a cool thing to see in a movie where, somebody like Al Capone was so recent. They were like, it was almost like a ripped from the headlines.
I thought it was kind of ballsy to make a movie like this and so blatantly be like, this is based off Al Capone, and like there were still gangsters out. Like 1932, this was still like Prohibition era. Like these gangsters were still running these towns.
Absolutely.
Like I think it's very impressive that they made this movie at that time.
Well, something else that's interesting about it is that at the time it was scheduled to be released, the Hays Code had come into effect, which meant that things like sex and violence and drugs and all that type of thing were being heavily censored in Hollywood. So there were actually multiple endings shot for this movie over the course of quite a while that, were constantly being changed because of censors and all kinds of input from the studio and, government influence.
I'm sure ultimately they were going to get what they wanted. Howard Hughes was producing this, and he was like the richest guy out there.
Oh yeah, he was super, super rich. There's a ton of history behind this, which is just fascinating.
This movie was interesting because the pacing was weird. Like a lot happened very quickly, and then it would slow down to a crawl, and then a lot would happen really quickly, and then it would slow down to a crawl. Yeah,
like there'd be like that like rapid fire dialogue, right? That kind of happened in a lot of these older movies, and then they would just pump the brakes. Like it was very oddly paced, and then. Like, the other thing I noticed, which it might have just been me, but I felt like the Tony character, like, was sliding in and out of an accent.
I noticed that, too.
All the time.
Drastically different.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And, like, his hairstyle and everything was, like, sometimes he was just, like, has this, like, crazy, messy hairstyle. Sometimes he was super slick. Like, he wasn't consistent with how he looked. Like, there was times where he really reminded me of, like, Benicio del Toro. And then other times he was, like, slicked back and, like, super handsome looking despite the scar. And, like... It was really weird. Like I guess maybe that was something they did on purpose to make him like look scary in some scenes and not sentimental, but relatable in other scenes. I really don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of a weirdly directed movie.
So just to kind of sum up the plot really quickly, because this one did move pretty quick. Like the beginning, Tony and what was Tony's friend? His name Gino. So Tony and Gino like kill some other, kingpin kind of guy. And then they immediately go to their boss. Was it Johnny?
Yeah.
So they go to Johnny, and it seems like right away they are like the number 2 guy. All of a sudden, like the way they're talking, and he's like warns him not to deal with the Irish, but to go take on the north side. And so he like rises up and he has a few things on the north side, and then he pushes the boundaries and goes after the Irish. He ultimately pushes out Johnny. He ends up killing Johnny, and then he gets super angry. He kills Gino because he's with his sister, and then he goes crazy and dies in a massive, in a shootout with the cops at the end of the movie. So that's it in a nutshell. Like, we can go into some more detail as we talk about some stuff, but it was pretty quick, and then it's just like punctuated by slow scenes.
I mean, it was super quick, like, especially when we're talking about the pacing. Like, at one point, they're showing the pages of a calendar, like, superimposed with a firing Tommy gun to show you that time is passing at a very, very rapid rate. And so that was a little bit odd. Like, it looked cool, but it was like they basically just hit fast forward on a lot of stuff until he had to, like, kill another person. And then, like, I felt like his career is just punctuated by murders.
Yeah. What was really interesting, you know what, another criteria we should probably talk about, which is obvious, and I don't know how we didn't mention, the two different Tonys. We got to talk about the two different Tonys. But, like, this Tony was very blunt. Like, it was really weird. Like, so he was really interested in Poppy, and he ends up, dating Poppy by the end. But when he first meets Poppy with Johnny, he basically calls Poppy a whore in front of Johnny, who is his boss and her boyfriend. Like, he says something, he's like, she looks like a real busy girl, must be really expensive. I was like, holy crap, that's pretty forward and just not okay to talk about your boss's girlfriend that way, especially if your boss is a gangster.
Well, what I thought was funny was, as soon as he said it, his boss just kind of like smiles and shrugs it off. And he just laughs off this comment where his underling just called his girlfriend a whore.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was bizarre. Like, the other part that I thought was weird was, like, when he was supposed to, like, kill that one guy, and then he didn't, and he gets that phone call, and they're like, oh, he's still alive. It's like, oh, we gotta go. And they go and they buy those flowers, and they go to the hospital, and they just walk right by everybody that works at the hospital, going door to door until they see this fool, and then they blast him and throw the flowers in there and just walk away.
Yeah, they just, like, they kick
no
the door
one does
and
anything.
blast in there, and then, Well, to be fair, I mean, if a bunch of big scary guys with guns walked into your hospital, started looking for people, I mean, what are you going to do?
He's in there, kill him. Like, they might as well have helped him, dude. They did nothing. They weren't even like, no, he's very sick. You can't go in. Like, there's a very weak resistance.
Well, like Xavier said, like, in that time period,
they should have just been like, yeah, fuck it, kill him, dude. We don't want to deal with him here anyway.
There's some other weird things about this Tony. Like, he basically calls Johnny a pussy at some point, like, for being afraid of the Irish boss. I can't remember the Irish boss's name, but he's like, this guy hides out in a flower shop. Why are we afraid of him? And then they go and kill him. And then they get retaliated on the machine guns. And like, this version of Tony doesn't seem like he's actually afraid of anything. Like, as he's getting
it doesn't seem like he lives in
because like
reality.
as he's getting shot at with the machine guns, like, he's like, oh my god, handheld machine guns, this is amazing. And he starts to, like, thinking about what they can do versus like trying to survive. That whole scene was weird.
I thought that was really interesting because it's almost like he's like a kid at Christmas instead of somebody who's getting shot
that
at.
Whole scene didn't make sense. So that was another thing about this movie that I didn't really think makes. It's a very serious movie. It's a call to arms against the government, saying like, you guys need to stop this immigration of Italians. You need to stop crime, and the government's not doing anything about it. Like, there's a whole scene where they're like, should we keep putting these people in the newspaper? Should we not? Should we close the borders? What should we do? And they have this whole scene arguing about what they should do. But so it's a very serious movie, but it's punctuated by these weird comedic moments with that one guy who's like not Gino, but like the next guy down, who every time Tony tells him to go do something, he's like, make sure you get the guy's name. And he's always like, oh, I forgot to get the guy's name, or I forgot the guy's name. In that machine gun scene, he's like on the phone and he's standing upright. Like, the machine guns, like, I don't know how they don't hit him, but he's like, I need you to speak louder. I can't hear you. What's your name? Not too loud. Don't yell at me. And then it's like going back and forth, and he still forgets the name. But then he, like, bullets are coming and he like checks to see if his hat got shot. But then he doesn't get cover, like, go for cover. Like, it's really strange, all these random comedic moments in this movie.
Yeah, and to a certain extent, I can't really tell if they were supposed to be comedic.
I think it had to be,
because the tone is just
like
so. The tone is just
like
so weird.
I don't think it was on purpose. Like, I think it was.
You don't
just
think that
bizarre.
hat scene where he like stands up, checks his hat, puts it back on?
I don't
like, I feel like it
know.
had to be.
Well, see, the reason that I'm really not sure is because when that guy finally gets shot, he's like, "I got the guy's name," and then he dies. And it seems like a really serious scene, but like you want to laugh at it, but there's also this like this guy just died, and he was. I mean, he didn't.
No.
Yeah, there's this like weird mood whiplash going on.
And
it's really bizarre.
That's what I'm saying. And like, if we're to touch on like the violence in this movie, like it happens. It's a pretty violent.
He kills
movie,
his best
but
friend.
It seems like, he just blows him away. Like I felt like when he like in the same thing in the 83 one, like Tony he kills Manolo, but like he's really like shaken up about
there's
it.
no
And,
remorse.
like, has like way more
What
feelings.
was crazy is in this movie when he goes and sees his mom and his sister. His sister like gets some money from him and she's all happy to see him, and the mom's like, "You're no son of mine," like, and then she tells the sister like, he doesn't actually like you, he's just another person, he will turn against you, he will hurt you, and later on he does, like, he like smacks her around, and it's true, like his own mother doesn't like him, and that comes up in the 1983 one as well. But in this one, it does seem at like one point like he didn't actually care about his sister. I mean, they end up working together at the end, but it seems like nobody in this movie actually likes this Tony.
No, so that's actually another really interesting part about like the issues and stuff that they had with censors at the time, is that in the original script, his mother actually loved him unconditionally, which I find just bizarre. It's fucking mind blowing. Like, how could, like, that your son is this fucking psycho monster. I mean, why would you love this fucking monster? Yeah, you just wouldn't. I mean, most people would react like the mother from the 83 version and be like, "Who did you kill for his money?"
You know what? Didn't.
I mean, the other thing too was, well, just back to the Tonys real quick. Like, both of them exhibit like manic behavior, right?
Yeah, but at least Tony Montana was on
coke.
when
there's cocaine. Like, you can explode. He's fucking high out of his fucking gourd on cocaine. Like, it makes a lot more sense
than this one. So, like, the other thing that was kind of weird about this Tony is he's all about like respect, which he's not. He's not respectful at all. Like, he is a dick to his boss. Like, he has no respect for anybody. But at the point when they go to kill Johnny, Johnny like begs for his life. He's like, "I'll give you Poppy." Like, he's like, "I'll give you my girlfriend. I never hurt anybody." He goes, so Tony goes, "No, you get somebody else to do it." And then he has Gino kill Johnny instead of doing himself. It's like, you're saying that he does the exact same thing that he's getting mad at Johnny for doing.
Yeah, both Tonys do it though. Tony does that in the 83 one as well.
Yeah. So that was actually something that I like really picked up on right away, and I was like, wait, is he like doing the same thing that the guy he's having killed did to show him what it's like? Is it?
I think it's just a slap in the face. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it like a slap in the face, or is it like just a weird dramatic irony? Like, is he so stupid that he doesn't understand what he's doing right now?
I think it's just to be like even more of an asshole right before you kill a guy.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, because I mean, they do it, but like it's Pacino sells it a lot better, right? Like in the 83 one, like when he's in there talking, like he sets up the guy, like he has his dudes call him, right? He says, "Call him at 3:00 and tell him that you fucked up and he got away." And then he's there, the phone rings, he's like, "Aren't you going to answer it, Frank?" And then he watches Frank pretend that it wasn't that conversation, and he's like, "You're a piece of shit, Frank." And then it's on, and like he's going to murder him.
So, what were our other criteria? So, just kind of like the themes. It was very, very heavy-handed.
Like
it opens with not one crawl, but a second crawl, basically saying like the government's fucking up. Write to your congressman, ask them to do stuff, and then that one scene, like, there's almost no scenes in this movie that don't have gangsters in it. Except for this one scene where it's all these citizens, like, they're arguing about, should we make them front page news? No, that gives them attention. That's going to get more people to do it. But if you don't, I don't remember the argument for, they're like, no, you have to put them in so people are aware of it. And then they start going by the cops. It's not the cops' fault. They have machine guns. And then they're like, it's the government's fault, immigration reform. And I was just like, fuck, man, this is like Trump right now. it was very heavy-handed, and then like the whole like the he gets this like super gaudy apartment to try to like impress Poppy, and it has like a one of the first electric billboards that says "The world is yours," and then when he dies, like you see that as well. Like that was pretty heavy-handed about like how greed is bad and all that stuff.
Yeah, and like you know, the '83 one took that.
Yeah, they totally
as well,
did. The
right,
blimp
on the
and then that globe.
But I felt like the De Palma one, like it's not as heavy-handed. Like it's done with grace.
I agree.
You know, like a lot of that stuff is just like, as far as a remake goes, like it is remade and just better crafted. You know, like the ideas.
It also had
great.
3 hours to do it.
Well, yeah, you know. But even if you cut out a lot of if you distilled the 3-hour movie into, you could make it a shorter movie and still have it be better than this movie.
Oh yeah.
Anything else you guys want to talk about on this movie? So we did talk about the Tonys. We did talk about, you know, kind of the themes. We did kind of talk, you know, about the era itself, Prohibition and everything like that. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about in this movie?
I don't know if there's anything much more to talk about.
You know what? One other thing that I thought was funny, real quick. So remember, they go after and go to kill that Irish gangster guy while he's bowling, and they machine gun him, and he's still got a strike.
Oh yeah, no. Well, he was a good bowler.
That was dumb.
He died as he lived.
So that's something that we can talk about very briefly, and it's actually one of the differences between the original and the remake is I mean, we kind of talked about it just now with like the world is yours sign and stuff, but there's actually some more super heavy-handed symbolism in that whenever Tony is actually going to kill somebody in the original movie, there is almost always an X on screen.
Oh, I didn't notice that. That's interesting.
And actually, sometimes multiple X's on screen all at once. Like when they go to the bowling alley to kill the dude, he gets a strike, there's an X. He bowls, you know, he gets a strike as he's being gunned down. And actually, in a scene just a couple minutes before that, there's this huge X on the wall behind this guy's head that's like painted with light, essentially, like almost, you know, kind of a film noir type of thing. And then there's the scene that's the homage to the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. The camera pans down from the rafters where it has a bunch of X's. Pans down, you see, you know, all these silhouettes and stuff.
Well, that's
they get guns
all
down.
Very
and
interesting,
back up
but I'm never
going
to rewatch this and look for that.
No, I mean, there's no real point to any of it. It's basically just like some really fucking heavy-handed way of saying people are dying.
And the Italians are bad,
and that's it. Yeah,
you know,
I guess.
I've got 2 other things that I thought were kind of funny in this movie. So at the very beginning, with that newspaper guy, who's like an old like newspaper guy, and he's like, he says the word war like 74 times in like 30 seconds. He goes, the Italians and the Irish are going to go to war. They're going to go to war with each other. It's going to be a gang war. It's going to be a gang war in the streets. It's going to be war in the streets. War.
Yeah, like put it in the headline. War.
Yeah, I
get your war on. It's time for war.
They said war in like 15 seconds. And then the other thing is every time there's a gun, like a gunfight, nobody's ever in cover. Like ever. Like at the end, him and his sister are like just standing still while there's
he's like trying to close those shutters. He's like, they can't get us in here, and then she's immediately shot in the belly. He's like, what? Like he's like dumbfounded.
They never hide behind any pillars like in that first machine gun scene, like I said.
No, she's just standing there loading that gun.
And she's smiling.
In the room.
Like she went there to kill him.
Yeah.
She went there to kill him and then switches sides, and then they just stand there. That other guy in the machine gun fight is just like standing there on the phone. Like nobody ever gets covered. Now, granted, in this movie, nobody like walks in and it's like sneaky. It's just like they walk in with machine guns, so you don't really have time to get in cover, I guess, most of the time. But nobody even tries.
I don't know, dude. I think it was just stupid.
I mean, I appreciate that at the time it might have been something, I don't know, positive, a good movie or received well or something, but my God, it has not held up.
No.
No. Nope.
Yeah, I've got nothing else. I think we're gonna have more fun talking about Scarface 1983. But other than that, I don't have anything else to talk about this one. All right, so let's just dive into the 1983 Scarface. Dustin, you want to just kind of give us a quick rundown on what happened in this movie?
Okay, so first of all, we got Oliver Stone screenplay, Brian De Palma directed. Movie opens up showing a bunch of footage of like all these refugees coming in from Cuba, right? One of them being Cuba. Antonio Montana. And it, they let him into the country begrudgingly. He ends up in like a refugee camp kind of place.
Under the freeway.
Under the freeway, like working a shitty job at like a sandwich store, and gets a break, right, when he gets a job, and they end up having to murder like this guy Rebenga in the camps,
like a former diplomat.
Yep, they do well at that, and they kind of rise through. I mean, it's the foundation of games like Grand Theft Auto. Like he's basically going from a little job to a bigger job to a bigger job throughout the course of this movie, making some power moves along the way, right, impressing the right people, doing some jobs on the side, trying to make a little bit of money, trying to make a name for himself, and by the end of it, I mean, he's made it. Like he definitely becomes a drug lord in Miami at the time. But I think what the movie does really well is it's a character study. Like it's showing you what could happen to anyone who has a proclivity towards violence and is starting to make a ridiculous amount of money very quickly.
Yeah.
Like that.
Very unstable.
It's really like, it's less, part of me wants to say it's less about being unstable and more about just what would happen to you if you did realize, like, holy shit, crime does pay big time. Like his life is so different by the end of the movie. Like he has everything he's ever wanted and it's still not enough, It's still not enough, and he got very lucky throughout this movie. Oh, many times. Luck is definitely a factor for him, The other thing that I thought that this Al Pacino did well is he's funny. Like he has a weird sense of humor throughout. Good timing in this. Yeah, I mean, he is a crazy sociopath, but like he's really funny and very charming in a way that I felt the Tony in the previous movie was just not.
Yeah, I don't think aside from the weird antics with the phone, I don't think the original movie actually had much of a sense of humor,
What's great about this movie, this Tony Montana, he knows he's not a good guy, and he has his own commentary on it. Like towards the beginning of the movie, when that first job opportunity comes up about getting a green card so they can get out of that camp. He basically is like, I'll kill a guy. No, he says, I kill communists for fun, but for a green card, I'll carve him up real nice. Yeah. I mean, he's been living a different life. Like that's the other thing is I think this movie it really touches on he's leaving Cuba for a reason. Like as fucked up as the shit is in America once he gets there, I feel like it pales in comparison to the shit that he's seen and done already.
Well, something interesting about that is that both he and his friends, what was his friend's name? God,
the main guy's Manny.
Manny. Yeah, Manny. Yeah. Both he and his friend Manny were actually in prison in Cuba.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and they had the little tattoos on their
So they weren't just leaving Cuba; they were getting booted out of Cuba.
Well, that's the thing that's interesting. In the opening crawl, it says, in 1980, something like 3,000 boats came, and there was 125,000 refugees. And out of that 125,000 refugees, 25,000 of them. So that's not a small percentage. Were they're criminals. They were purging their jails.
I like to think that Tony Montana, though he's purged from jail. I love that in the beginning of this movie, he keeps repeating that he is a political
refugee,
a political prisoner. And then I also like that, it seems as though he's looking at this as it's still America is the land of opportunity. It's just that opportunity is to do crime on a whole nother level.
What's insane about this movie is the beginning, he he automatically, because they did that one job that got them the green card, which was the best thing that could have happened to them.
Oh yeah, but then he's
Is
working
getting-
at the sandwich shop, and he's like, "I
Yeah.
didn't come to the United States to break my fucking back, man." Like, he's
Yeah.
ready to just let's kill some more people.
So,
Let's-
so they offer him $500 to go like buy marijuana. Like so, Omar.
5,000
Yeah.
to buy cocaine.
No,
is
no,
what
it was
he upped
$500.
to.
No, it was $500 initially for marijuana, and
and
Tony's like,
yeah.
"No, I'm too fucking good for this
Yeah.
shit. Like, get me something better." And so like Omar kind of like is kind of a dick, but he's like, "You can go get this cocaine from the
No, the
Colombians."
guy's like, "You know something about cocaine?" And he's like, "Yeah, whatever, I don't care." And then he negotiates the job up to a $5,000 job, and I mean that leads into
kind
one
of
of the
fucks
coolest
up the
scenes
first
in the
job.
movie.
Yeah,
Well,
it's a cool
no,
scene, but he fucks
like,
up.
Not really. He ends up with all the money and the cocaine.
He does, but once again, luck came into a factor. So he walks in, he picks probably the least prepared person. Like that guy who's supposed to be watching his back, like is not looking around. He does not keep his head on a swivel, which is what you got to do if you're doing a drug fucking deal, man.
Well,
Keep your
yeah.
head on a goddamn swivel. So this guy, like, somebody sneaks up on him right away. They get the upper, and that woman who's like laying on the bed has a shotgun under her, like.
Yeah.
And then so he's about to get chainsawed. Manny comes in with the machine gun and just blazing.
But he still
and the
keeps
guy
his attitude the whole time. Like when
He
he's
does.
he's tied up in the shower. They're about to chainsaw him. He's like,
And he's
"Why
like,
don't you
"Fuck
try
you,"
sticking your
and
head up
spits.
your ass, see if it fits?"
Yeah, see if it fits.
Like,
So Manny shoots this machine gun. The guy drops the chainsaw and it's like flying through the. He
Yeah.
almost hits Tony, but then the guy like juggles it and like luckily doesn't get himself. And then he just got really lucky. Like Manny got shot in that sequence. He's like, it's all good.
I mean,
They
that
just
was
went right
Tony
through.
getting that homie help, you know.
Yeah, he got really really lucky
Yeah, and
because
then
that
he
whole
runs
time
out of
like
the
Manny's
place
like
and
hitting on
blasts
chicks.
that guy Hector
Yeah,
in
in
front
the
of like
street.
30 people in broad daylight.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
But I did really
insane.
like in that whole sequence. Like, I think I just found something very appealing about like all the Art Deco like buildings in Miami. Like the setting
Yeah.
was just like, I don't know. It just looked a lot cooler, like a lot more hip, and I don't know. Like it was different. It had a whole different feel than it was Chicago in the other one,
Yeah, Chicago.
where like it feels like just cool. Like, it feels like these people are all doing cool gangster shit rather than like seedy underworld stuff, you know? Like, and it's the 80s. I don't know. Something about it was just a little
what
more
was interesting is
endearing.
how he works with others. Like Frank actually seemed like a nice boss.
At the
like
beginning,
a good
Frank
guy.
was awesome, dude. He's like, "You're gonna move
Yeah, he
up
was just
fast.
You're gonna
You
move
know?
up fast, and he gives them these
That's
rules.
Robert
He's like,
Loggia,
look,
right? That's Robert Loggia.
yeah, he's like, people who make it in this world are the ones who don't overreach, don't overextend.
Stay
you know,
loyal. all that
loyalty. So be loyal, but don't go beyond your means. Don't draw attention to yourself, and you'll make it. So, and then he gives them. He's like, "These are my 2 rules: don't underestimate others' greed," which I guess he did. He underestimated Tony's greed,
Yeah.
and that's why he
Yeah.
died.
That's why he died.
And don't get high on your supply.
Yeah.
So,
I
Tony
mean,
broke
also,
both
like,
of those.
if we're touching on the violence, like, the 1932 movie does not have a chainsaw shower scene.
No, it does not.
Close to, like, that level of brutality. And yet, somehow, I felt like the violence in this movie was more, like, it was a lot scarier and a lot more effective. Like, the other one, I just felt like, oh, people were getting shot left and right. Like, blam, blam, no, he shot. Like, it's like a cartoon
was definitely
kind
more
of
real.
violence, you know?
I think part of it is just, you know, the 80s. I mean, I didn't grow up in the 80s. I was born in the 80s, but the 80s doesn't seem that far ago, like that far away. So we can more imagine that, where 1930s to us seems like a cartoon. Like, we only know 30s as, like, caricature movies like, hey, here's looking at you. See here.
Never take me
Kinda
live
thing.
cover.
So 30s for us is cartoon.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's definitely true. Though I think there's also something interesting about the '83 Scarface in that the way it was filmed is kind of similar to the way a lot of horror movies are filmed.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
totally.
It's pretty
Yeah, it's-
horrific at times.
Yeah. Well, especially with things like that, the shower scene. You never actually see what the chainsaw is doing. You just see a bunch of blood.
It's
But-
fucking up a guy. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, it's really fucking up
Ruining
a guy.
guy's
But
day.
like,
It's what's
oh yeah, but like if you were seeing that thing just like chainsawing into his arm or something, like it was just on screen and it was going through his arm, it'd be gross and be unsettling, but it wouldn't be as terrifying
Oh
as
no, yeah.
thinking about how horrific it is given all the sound
Yeah.
effects and
Yeah.
blood splattering
it's definitely
everywhere
what
off.
you don't see that is scarier. Like,
Oh
in
yeah,
that case.
yeah.
Absolutely. And like, you know, going back to like the Robert Loggia stuff, like once you get like Michelle Pfeiffer introduced in this movie, she looks amazing in this movie.
Oh yeah,
and
this
she's
is her at her
just
peak.
scary in a lot of the scenes that she's in.
Well, in that very first scene, she's like, "Oh, you're gonna go back to that same restaurant? Like, it wouldn't be hard to assassinate you. You're only over at 2 places." And he's like, "Who wants to kill me? I'm a nice guy." And she's like, "Well, it wouldn't be hard." Like,
yeah,
we could
like
do
just,
it.
there's like such a like she has such malice into everything she says and does, like the way that she moves, or like when she's like, "Don't call me baby. I'm not your baby."
And
like,
then like
whoa.
they're sent to go pick her up, and she's like, "I'm not getting in that car."
Yeah.
And just like a complete dick. And it's like he's like, "This is a Cadillac."
It's with
And
the
just-
tiger interior. Isn't
Yeah.
that-
Yeah.
Well, Tony has
It's
a
got
thing
some
for
miles.
tigers in this movie.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
totally has a tiger at the end, which is tight.
Yeah.
He always wanted a tiger, and he got one.
So one of my first conversations with you, Dustin, well, it wasn't one of the first but when I realized you and I were friends was when we had a discussion about a tiger. Do you remember that?
Oh, about owning tiger ownership.
Owning a tiger. So let's bring Xavier into this conversation really quick. Xavier,
Please do. I'm interested now.
if you had a tiger, what do you do to prevent a mauling? Like, how do you prevent a Siegfried and Roy incident?
First of all, you don't have explosions going off near the tiger.
Well, actually,
Wrong.
Actually,
it's the
that is
complete opposite.
entirely incorrect answer.
You need to have a fail-safe. You need to have a small bomb implanted at the base of the tiger's neck. Come on, Xavier.
On a key fob. So if the tiger goes bad on you, you got to put it down quick.
But
And one, you
Wrong.
shouldn't own a tiger. Okay?
Well,
I'm not
yeah, but that-
saying
dude, I mean, a
anyone
fail-safe.
should own a tiger.
we're assuming that you already own the tiger. Like the tiger is in your charge, whether you
Once
like it or
you
not.
own this tiger, you have to be able to blow up its
You
brain.
need a fail-safe.
I
Think about
Man.
it, dude. Maybe something on like a cuff, like a wrist cuff, maybe a special watch, some kind of
Yeah.
remote
Okay.
detonator that's on your person.
okay. I will defer to you guys then.
I'm
Just
really
think it
disappointed
over,
that you got
think it
this
over.
wrong,
It'll all make
Xavier.
sense.
You know what? It does make sense, but like you guys, you all right.
All right, getting
All
back
right.
to the
The topic
At
at
any
hand.
rate, he does have a tiger in this movie, and
What's-
it's pretty
Yes, he
cool.
does.
It did
He
seem
does.
kind of sad that the tiger just lived down at like the bottom of that hill by the creek, chained
He
to a
just
wall.
tied up to a tree.
Yeah, like he didn't spend a lot of quality time with his tiger. I think he just looked at it.
Well, he may have like that was like in a like the 1980s montage scene that you saw.
He also
him.
has
Like,
a
you don't know what's actually going
full-grown
on.
tiger. Like it's not like he got like a baby one and like raised it up to be like a super cool tiger buddy.
Yeah, he
You
did.
know,
So
Tony
getting back to
Montana doesn't actually strike me as the very patient type, so I don't think he'd
well,
want a baby
it's funny
tiger.
that you say that because it's interesting because like him not being able to raise like a baby tiger comes into play later on. Like in one of the most fucked up scenes towards the end of the movie, after he's like full on paranoid, he goes to dinner with Manny and Elvira, and he like it's one of my favorite lines of the movie. He's like her womb is so barren,
So polluted.
polluted. That's right. Her
yeah,
womb
yeah.
is so polluted. I can't have a baby with her. And then she's countered just like, what the fuck kind of father are you gonna be? Like you're what are you gonna do? You kill people? Like you do
sell
drugs
and you
kill
kill
people. Kind of thing. Like what kind of father are you gonna be? And like the relationship was weird. Like what's
That's a
interesting
great
with
scene
this,
though.
Tony,
That's the scene when like they're saying all this stuff really loud in a crowded restaurant, and then like she storms off, and everybody's staring at him, and he's like, "Get a good look at the bad guy." Like, that scene is.
you
great.
need people like me so you know what the bad guy
Put your
is.
fucking fingers.
man.
Yeah. Say
Oh, man.
goodnight to the
Well,
bad guy.
So getting to this Tony real quick, like his personal relationships, I believed more than the 1932 one. So in this one, I actually believe he really did love his sister. You know, he was looking out like when he saw that one guy in the club. It wasn't just the one time where he like freaks out. Like he freaks out multiple times with when he sees her with like other men. He does seem to legitimately care with his gift. Like when they have that montage, like you see her going to like shopping sprees and everything like that. Like I don't feel like it was just like that one scene thing with the mom. The mom still hates him, like, fucking stay away from my family. But he does seem to genuinely care about Gina in this movie.
He did. I mean, he seemed to genuinely care about, like, Manny.
He had morals. He also cared about kids
Yeah,
and
he
women.
cared
Like
about
he wanted
kids.
to keep women and children out of the equation.
He really
And that was a
wanted
big
kids.
part of this movie.
And I think as we touched on previously, like as far as like, my studies into theoretical biology, I think Tony has a hypothesis here when he's talking about, as far as reproduction, you got to get the money, and then you get the power, and then you get
and
the
then
women.
you get the girl, and then you get to have sex with
in
them.
that order, though.
Yeah.
And he really reinforces that with Manny, and he proves it out throughout the movie. Unfortunately,
totally.
her womb's too polluted, so that fucked that up.
Oh. Oh boy. Oh boy.
So, looking at I think it's this Tony is, like you said, he's much more manic, but it is a drug-fueled mania. He does seem to be a better gangster. Like when he goes and talks with Sosa in Bolivia, he completely power moves Omar out of it, and he very well could have been killed. Like
out of the plane, and he's like, oh, I never liked that guy anyway. I think he set me up.
And he says something pretty cool, and he's like, I've never fucked somebody over who didn't believe. So he never says he doesn't fuck people over. But he's like, I never fucked over anybody who didn't deserve it. I've only got two things: my balls and my word, and I don't break them for nobody.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So I thought that was pretty cool. But he talks like Sosa into this like amazing deal, like negotiates the good price. And then he goes back to Frank and basically calls Frank like a pussy for not wanting to do it, for being afraid of the Colombians and overstepping their bounds.
Yeah.
But he was a much savvier business person. Like in the original one, it was
moves,
just
dude.
Yeah. In the original one, like he made power moves, but it was just like because he was young and stupid and just wanted to. Where in this, like he makes these moves, but he's very smart when he does it. He's very articulate when he needs to be, and he like you said, he makes these power moves, and he does it right. I was very impressed with this Tony. Like even when he was paranoid at the peak, he's still rational at a lot of times. Like when Manny's telling him, he's like, the security is like too much. Like it's 12% of our gross. And he's like, well, it helps me sleep at night. And that's what's most important, kind of thing. And later on, like those security systems help him stay alive quite a bit longer in that shootout.
He has enough time to prep to kill a lot of people before.
And he like knows who's right outside the door. Like he's able to grenade people that he can't actually see. Like pretty fucking cool.
Yeah. I mean, I think also like, you know, as you see him arrive, like the purchases, right? Like the tiger. Like the other thing that was pretty impressive was that bubble bath with the TV.
Yeah, with the TV.
And, like, it's like just surrounded by carpet. It looks like the carpet hits the tub in a weird way that makes no sense. And he's just sitting in the bath, yelling at his wife and yelling at his friend. Yep. That seems like a great life. Honestly,
it's interesting that
if I could sit in a bathtub and yell at you and my wife, I'd feel like I made it. But just yell shit at you guys. I was just kidding.
That's right. Just kidding. Come back. Then he's like, fuck you guys. I only trust me.
I don't care. I don't need
and he's like, the only person I trust is me.
Just getting hammered in a bathtub by yourself.
What's interesting in this movie is I think he was also kind of like a masochist. Like there's no reason for him to be into Elvira other than she's very physically attractive. But she's mean to him the entire time. Like, I don't kiss the help, you know, everything. Like, she gives him coke and then tries to make out with her, and she's just like, no. And throughout, like, she doesn't ever really show any genuine interest in him. And then like he goes and kills Frank, or he has Manny kill Frank, and then he just goes like, Frank's dead, you're mine now, kind of thing. Yeah. And she's super mean to him the whole time. Like, she's always like, at one point she's like, can't you say anything other than fuck? And then she calls him a spick.
Yeah.
And everything. Like, that relationship is not healthy at all.
I think there is some because like he's, you know, like throughout the movie, like he kind of dabbles in the coke, like until the very end when he's just putting his face into a mountain of cocaine.
He pours like he takes that little chest and he pours some out, and then he pours more out, and then
he pours it all on the table, and he puts his fucking whole head in it. He's just ready to die.
You know what else that this Tony did way better than the other Tony?
Huh.
He was actually tactical in fighting with the machine guns. He used cover. He used that dead guy as cover.
Yeah. Yeah, he was kicking their asses, dude. He was ready to kill them all.
Dozens of people. Dozens. It's insane.
Oh, yeah.
That last scene was really cool.
Like, if you were one of the cops to arrive on that scene after that, like, there's a lot of shit going on. Like,
yeah.
You got people dead all over. Easily killed a dozen people.
Easily.
And
so I
he
guess
knows he's not going to make it, right? Like, he knows he's not going to kill them all. But, I mean, he did take a lot of those motherfuckers down with him.
Oh, a lot.
So, am I the only one who just, like thinks,
yes, you
wow,
are the only one.
Well, maybe, but, like, anytime I watch this movie, because I've seen this movie several times, but anytime I watch this movie, I just think, wow, Tony Montana is a huge fucking asshole who's way too fucking macho for his own good.
Oh, yeah.
And for the good of anybody around him.
I think that's the point of the movie.
Well,
yeah,
right.
You know what else I like about this movie is you don't have like a hero cop as the foil. You know, like
No,
there's no
there is no
other point
foil.
of view. Like, oh man, like I feel like if they're gonna make this movie, if they're gonna remake this movie again, right, they would
Which they are.
probably try to make somebody be like the guy that is.
Who brings
the
it down.
antagonist or whatever, or the hero to counter the anti-hero or whatever, and that would make it stupid.
Yeah, well, they are remaking this right now.
Oh, good. Awesome.
With Diego Luna as Tony. I don't know if it's still going to be Tony, but Diego Luna from Rogue One is going to be the
Tony,
I guess,
character.
protagonist. Yeah, I guess we should talk about the themes of this movie. So I definitely think, it was a commentary on just greed in the 80s and consumerism and all that stuff. Like, that's pretty obvious.
Oh, yeah, just
doing blow.
fucking conspicuous
Everybody's
consumption.
doing blow in this movie.
Yeah, and then I guess there was, I don't feel like it was anti-immigration like the original one was. Like, it was just very matter-of-fact, like, hey, 125,000 people came to this country. 25,000 of them were criminals. Like, there wasn't, I don't feel like this one was like, we need to control and Cubans are bad.
Well, when it came out, it was definitely perceived as being sort of racist and kind of having a weird relationship with the large influx of Cubans into Florida.
It does not paint them in the best light.
It doesn't, but I don't necessarily think that this movie was a anti-immigration movie like the original one was.
No, the original one was far more xenophobic.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this one is just showing you, he's come to America. He's totally fine with doing crime and killing people. Like, that's the place to do it. Like, the environment was ripe for his success. Like, I mean, at one point, what does he say? Like, this town is like a great big pussy waiting to get fucked.
Fucked, yeah.
They wanted someone like him to bring that much cocaine into that city so that everyone could buy it and do it. Like, he doesn't succeed. He doesn't create a market. Like, the market's there. He just supplies the product.
Yeah, so there is that scene where there are newspapermen and people are like, well, what do we do? Like, they even in the 80s they're like, well, maybe we should make drugs legal. It was a news anchor. He's like, there are people who suggest that by making cocaine legal, and I'm not one of them. Exactly right.
He's so full of shit. That guy was out doing blow every fucking night.
Anything else you guys want to talk about? I mean, we can spend all day talking about all the crazy stuff. I do think it is worth noting that scene when he's supposed to kill that journalist who calls out a bunch of Bolivians, and the guy from Breaking Bad in the wheelchair with the bell. He's super quiet in this. He goes to kill, and then Tony's just like, no, I'm not gonna do it. And but he's like, I told you, no wife, no kids. You think I don't need that shit on my conscience? And then he blows his brains out.
Like, you die. Look at you now.
Yeah, I told you not to fuck with me and everything. He goes crazy. He's yelling, and everyone in the back of the car is like, what
dude,
the
could
fuck?
you imagine being one of those poor bastards in the back of that car? The guy
blew
his brains out and he's screaming at him.
He definitely set up that he's not someone you should fuck with, and when they go and kill Frank, he does the same thing that Tony in the original movie did, where he has his friend kill the boss. But then that guy Ernie, they're one of the guys was, I think it was Chi-Chi, was like, what about Ernie here? And then he just he looks at him up. It's a long scene. He just stares at him for 15 seconds. It's back and forth for 15 seconds. And Ernie looks like he's about to shit himself. And he's like, you want a job? Yeah, okay, Tony. I'll call you tomorrow.
And then the other guy's like, hey, you got a job!
Yeah. Chi-Chi was the best. I like Chi-Chi.
Oh, he has some great henchmen. I mean, I think he
did.
You need henchmen to get anywhere in the world.
You do. You need your Bob the Goon.
And these guys knew Batman. How to hench.
They did. So we talked about Tony. We talked about the themes. We talked about the different culture. Is there anything else that you guys want to kind of talk about before we move on?
Well, I mean, do we want to sort of discuss the impact that this movie had, just in general?
I think we have to. This is huge. I have a Zelda shirt with Link on it in the style of the poster that just says Link, the black and white with him standing in front of it.
Right.
Everything has done some sort of spoof or knockoff of this movie.
Well, yeah, I think that's definitely a very, very important thing to bring up when you're discussing Scarface. Like, no matter how you feel about the movie, I have to admit that it's hugely influential in a lot of ways. And I mean, you can directly trace it back to the rise of, hip hop at the time. And I think that's a huge part of what pushed this from being just this like slightly weird niche film that was kind of got a mixed reception when it came out to something that's this weird cultural icon of.
I mean, Vice City from Grand Theft Auto is basically this movie.
Oh yeah, and actually, if you go and you play Vice City, you can actually see that like there are several scenes that are lifted almost directly from the movie.
The Sunray Apartments, I don't know if they call them that, but the chainsaw apartment is in there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can actually go to that apartment where they have the shower in there, and you can pick up the chainsaw in that room. I mean, the impact just in like gangster films and games.
Or what's
and
crazy is people liked this movie, like in that community, liked this movie so much, and I think it kind of makes sense because this came right before like crime got completely like terrifying in the U.S. because it was early '80s, late '80s, early '90s. People were like super afraid of crime, so I'm sure like this had a big impact on a lot of of the gang community in that time frame. But this movie was so popular that people really want a sequel. They tried to make a sequel at one point, but they just dropped it. But then they ended up making a sequel video game where it was like an alternate universe where Tony survived that final encounter in the mansion and basically has to like start from scratch and build his empire back up. Like people were wanting more Tony Montana, which is pretty insane because he's not a likable character. He's just
he's a
crazy
fucking monster.
But yeah, I mean, this is huge. Like like I said earlier, the cultural impact of this was far-reaching. Like I had never actually seen this movie all the way through up until this time. Like I could have almost 100% summed up the plot of this. It's been spoofed so many times. Like there's not anybody in the United States who doesn't know something about this movie.
Oh yeah, it's had like as far as like cultural impact, it's probably on the same level as something like Star Wars or The Godfather or
Alien. Like Alien, everybody knows what happens in that movie. Like everyone knows that chest bursting scene. Like it's crazy. Like, there are just movies that everybody knows, even if you haven't seen it, and this is one of those movies.
Oh yeah.
So, unless you guys have anything else to say,
I like that. I feel like when his like rage is kicking in, like the accent kicks in harder. Like when he's like, "Manolo, shoot that piece of shit." Like when he's talking about killing men, like it comes in a lot thicker when he's really mad, and I like that about the movie.
Well, I think that's an interesting part of like just Al Pacino in general is that's just kind of that's how he talks anyway.
Yeah, I think this movie was like the beginning of the crazy Al Pacino.
Of him just screaming at everyone in every
movie. There was
movie.
he had some subtlety in his acting prior to this movie. Like
Serpico
in The Godfather,
he
was very,
Serpico's
like you go to this, it's good. And then just like this one, and I think was the beginning of his craziness, and then it just peaked with The Devil's Advocate.
Oh yeah,
like I don't think he says anything below like 100 decibels in that movie.
I mean, I also think that's part of what makes Son of a Woman enjoyable is just watching him scream at Chris O'Donnell all movie.
Is that the one where he's blind?
Yeah, that's the one where he's blind and he's just an asshole.
Well, I mean, you can't go wrong with screaming at Chris O'Donnell.
No, it's amazing. It's really entertaining. It's what makes that movie so good.
All right. So I think we should kind of segue into the news and our listener emails real quick. So we got one. I wanted to give I kind of screwed up Yellow Koala's question a couple episodes back because I forgot to have it out. But so Yellow Koala sent us another email in response to The Thing, the episode we did last week or 2 weeks ago. And she said, he goes, "Just listen to your episode of The Thing. I thought it was great. I am a huge X-Files fan. I don't know if you guys have seen the episode Ice, but I think this was I think this was an homage to that movie, The Thing."
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Do you guys remember that episode? So that one's the one where they're in I think it's Alaska, but it very much is The Thing. Like I didn't grow up watching X-Files, but my wife Katrina is a huge X-Files fan. Like she's got a ton of merch. She's watched the entire series 5 or 6 times. And when I watched this episode, I think it's like the beginning of season 2, I was like, this is The Thing.
Oh, it totally
So
is.
I definitely think
Yeah.
it was an homage to that movie. But it was a good episode. Like, at one point, they're like, Mulder, they lock up Mulder because they think he has the parasite in him and they think he's going to spread it. But it was very much like Mulder was McCready in that episode.
Man,
Oh, yeah.
I wish I
mean,
could
it
be
was-
McCready in the episode of my life.
You know, just on a tangent, I did go see Guardians of the Galaxy last night.
Guardians
and
of the
Kurt
Galaxy?
Russell. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Oh,
Kurt Russell fucking
Guardians.
ruled in that movie.
dude, he rules in every movie. That
Yeah,
he's
he was
in.
great.
And in some
He's just
movies
such
that
a
he's
cool
not
guy.
in, he rules.
Hi, Katrina. Almost. Okay, give us a few minutes. We're almost done. No, he's not in here. The door's closed. He's right behind you.
Good thing this
So-
isn't live.
Right? So yeah, I definitely did think of The Thing when I watched that episode. So yes, thank you, Yellow Koala, and thank you for listening. Thank you for submitting questions a couple of times. We really appreciate it.
We love you.
Getting into the news really quick. I've got a couple really quick stories. I don't think there's going to be really any that we're going to spend a large amount of time on. They did announce that Masters of the Universe is still getting remade. It did lose the director Mick G, which I'm completely okay with. He's done nothing good.
Okay.
And it is still being written by David Goyer, who wrote Batman Begins. So I'm cool with
Okay.
that. The rumored cast for that, or at least for He-Man, was Kellen Lutz from like Twilight and that shitty Hercules movie that was not the one with The Rock. Like they came out the same year,
Yeah.
but the one that was not The Rock, that weird looking blonde guy. But who knows if he's still gonna have it. I'm interested in watching a He-Man movie. I think it could be really fun, especially with like how Marvel's going kind of weird with like Guardians of the Galaxy and Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah.
I think having a weird, just completely stellar movie could be kind of fun.
He-Man is a weird universe to play in.
It's so weird.
It
I
is. It's
mean,
like that weird
I
fantasy, but it
loved
has like
He-Man
tanks and
As a
stuff.
child, like I had all the dude. It's got like dinosaurs, tanks, future guns, magic swords, ancient castles, sorcerers. Like I feel like it's a universe where they just decided, yeah, anything that's like little boys think is gonna be rad, we're just gonna dump all that shit in this and
Yeah.
not care about how it works.
Moving on, Murder on the Orient Express with Daisy Ridley and Josh Gad and Kenneth Branagh.
Yes.
That's
yes.
I love Kenneth Branagh.
Yes.
I think all his movies are great. They released a ton of images. I put them all up on Instagram.
It
but it looks pretty cool.
fucking awesome.
That's tight.
And this is the movie where Josh Gad was like pressuring Daisy Ridley to give Star Wars spoilers on those like viral videos. But it looks pretty good. Like we'll see. We need to see a trailer, but I'm interested in seeing it. So the last thing we need to talk about before we go, guys. So the Listen to Win giveaway. So we put the hashtag out there. Kurt Rewind Russell. We asked you guys to share our episodes, episode 7, The Thing, with that hashtag to be entered to win. We did autograph that copy of The Thing. We'll be sending out to the winner, who is
oh my god!
Oh shit! Yeah.
Hey, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks
thank
for
you
listening.
very,
It's
very
awesome.
much for listening to us. You know, a lot of times it feels like we're just screaming out into the void, so it's always nice when the void screams back. Thank you.
yeah.
I
Thank you
love
guys so much
screaming
for
voids.
sharing it. Thank you guys for listening. It really does Alex make us feel like Ortega, we're doing this for a AKA reason. So
at the other
We're doing this
awesome
for
fan
you.
on Twitter.
And we're glad to do this. On another note, we did change our Patreon a little bit. So we do have a $15 prize now. But what we're going to be doing is if you go on there and you sign up for $15, we will autograph a movie that we've done. It could be The Thing. It could be Point Break. It could be one of the Godzilla movies. We're just going to pick a movie, buy it on Blu-ray, autograph, and send it your way as, thank you guys for listening. So please check us out on Patreon and help us out. We also got a couple things going on. So Audible at the top. Once again, it's audibletrial.com/MDXpods. We also are Amazon affiliates, which I'll have that link in the description. If you guys are going to go buy something on Amazon, everybody uses Amazon anyway. Might as well help us out. Go to that link. It redirects you to an Amazon page. Everything's the same price, but you'll give us a little bit to help fund the podcast. So you're doing it anyway. Help us out.
Help us.
And of course, check us out on Instagram and Twitter at MDXpods. We're on Facebook as well. And check out our website, MDXpods.com. on the website itself, if you guys go to the Remake Rewind page, what we're doing because we're Amazon affiliates, I actually will have links to the movies that we're covering. So as of right now, Scarface links are up on mdxpods.com/remake, so you can just go straight to there and click on the link. It'll automatically direct you to the Blu-ray, DVD, or digital copies of the movie. And if you do click on those, buy them, rent them, we will get a small portion of the revenue. So please help us out and watch these movies and watch them through Amazon. Help us out. Other than that, thank you guys for listening. We really appreciate it. That's it for me.
All right, mahalo.
Bye.
Woo.
Bye, guys. All right.